The first time Luca Bellondi touched Hannah Miller, he did not touch her at all. He only offered his hand. And somehow, that was more dangerous than any gun in the room. The ballroom of the Harborstone Hotel glittered like a palace built to hide sins. Gold chandeliers burned above polished marble floors. White roses climbed crystal pillars. A string quartet waited beside the stage, their bows lowered, their eyes frozen on the bride standing alone in the center of her own wedding reception. Hannah Miller's veil had slipped from her carefully pinned hair. Her bouquet trembled in her hands. The lace of her wedding dress clung to her waist, where someone had spilled champagne earlier, leaving a faint stain that no one had bothered to help her clean. Across from her husband laughed. Connor Walsh, the man who had promised to love her before God only 3 hours earlier, swayed with a half-empty glass in his hand and a cruel grin twisting his beautiful face. "You want the truth," he said, loud enough for the entire ballroom to hear. "Fine." She was a mistake. The silence that followed felt sharper than broken glass. Hannah blinked once. The word did not enter her like sound. It entered her like a blade. A mistake. Connor's best man gave a nervous laugh. Someone near the dessert table whispered, "Oh my God." A woman in a silver gown lifted her phone just a little. Pretending she was checking the time, Connor pointed at Hannah with the sloppy confidence of a man who had never faced consequences. "I mean, look at her," he said. "She's sweet. Sure. Safe. The kind of woman you marry when your mother says you need to look respectable. But love," he laughed again. "Colder this time." "No. I was drunk on pity." A few guests laughed. Not many. Enough. Hannah felt every laugh land on her skin. She looked toward Connor's parents, hoping for shock, shame, anything human. His mother, Vivienne Walsh, stood near the head table with her diamonds flashing at her throat. Her lips were pressed together, but her eyes held no horror, only irritation, as if Hannah's pain had ruined the floral arrangements. Hannah's own aunt covered her mouth with one hand. Her cousin stared down at the tablecloth. No one moved. No one protected her. No one even said her name. Hannah's throat tightened until breathing felt like swallowing wire. She had spent 8 months planning this wedding on a teacher's salary and borrowed hope. She had handmade place cards after school. She had stayed up past midnight grading essays, then addressing invitations in gold ink. She had believed Connor when he said he loved her quietness, her plain honesty, her ordinary life. Now he stood in front of 200 people and told them she was a costume he regretted wearing. She turned, ready to run. Then a chair moved. The sound was soft, but the ballroom heard it. At the far end of the room, seated alone at a table no one had dared to approach, Luca Bellondi stood. He did not rise quickly. He did not look surprised. He moved with the unhurried calm of a man whose patience was more frightening than anger. Every whisper died. Even Connor's drunken smile faltered. Luca Bellondi was not supposed to be the center of the wedding. He had been invited because Connor's father did business with Bellondi Imports, a luxury shipping company everyone in Rhode Island knew was only the visible tip of a much darker kingdom. People said Luca controlled ports from Boston to New York. They said men who betrayed him vanished into fog before sunrise. They said he could ruin a judge with one phone call, buy a politician with one dinner, and end a bloodline without raising his voice. Hannah knew only what her students' parents whispered when they thought she could not hear. Mafia. Dangerous. Do not star. Do not offend. Luca wore a black suit with no tie, his dark shirt open at the throat. Tattoos climbed from beneath one cuff when he adjusted his jacket. His face was carved in cold lines, beautiful in the way storms were beautiful from a distance. His eyes were not black, but they were dark enough to make the gold ballroom seem dim. He walked toward Hannah. No one blocked him. Connor straightened. Trying to recover the arrogance alcohol had loosened. Belandi, he said with a laugh that shook at the edges. Relax. It's a family joke. Luca did not look at him. He stopped in front of Hannah. For one breath, she could not move. The whole room vanished around him until all she saw was the measured rise of his chest, the calm precision of his hands, the shadow of a scar cutting faintly through his left eyebrow. He looked at her like she was not a spectacle, not a joke, not a mistake, like she was a person standing at the edge of collapse. And everyone else in the room should be ashamed for watching. His voice was low when he spoke. Mrs. Walsh. The name hurt. Hannah flinched. Something changed in his eyes. Not softness. Not yet. Something more dangerous. Recognition of pain. He lowered his hand between them. May I have the first dance? A gasp moved through the ballroom. Connor's face reddened. What the hell did you just say? Luca's hand remained steady. The band stopped too early. He said. The bride never got her dance. Hannah stared at his palm. Large. Scarred across the knuckles. A hand that had probably signed death warrants, held weapons, and closed around throats. A hand offered to her like a choice. She should have been afraid. She was afraid. But behind her, Connor laughed again under his breath. Go ahead. Hannah, dance with the gangster. At least someone feels sorry for you. Luca's gaze finally shifted, only slightly. But Connor stopped smiling. The temperature of the room seemed to drop. Careful, Luca said. One word. Connor swallowed. Hannah looked at Luca's hand again. She thought of her classroom, of the paper stars her students taped to her desk, of the little girl who once told her, Miss Miller, you make quiet people feel brave. She thought of every time she had smiled through humiliation because making a scene felt worse than being wounded. Then she placed her hand in Luca Belandi's ass. The ballroom forgot to breathe. His fingers closed around hers, not possessive, not gentle, but certain. He turned toward the band. Play it again, he said. The violinist looked at Connor's father. Connor's father looked at Luca. Luca did not repeat himself. The music began. The same first dance song Hannah had chosen months ago filled the ballroom again. But this time it sounded haunted. The melody rose beneath the chandeliers as Luca guided her to the center of the floor. Hannah's legs trembled. He noticed. Of course he noticed. His hand settled at her waist, barely touching the lace. Breathe, he murmured. She hated that he saw her falling apart. She hated more that he was the only one who cared. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. You already doing it. They all watching. Let them. His palm was warm through the thin fabric of her dress. His movements were controlled, slow enough for her to follow. Around them, the guests stood frozen with champagne flutes in hand. Connor looked ready to explode. Vivian Walsh's face had gone pale with fury. Hannah tried not to cry harder. Luca saw that too. You owe this room nothing, he said. I owe myself not to break. His eyes held hers. Breaking is not weakness. Staying broken for people like him is... She looked away before the words could undo her completely. They danced beneath a ceiling of gold, while her husband stood drunk and humiliated by his own cruelty. Luca did not pull her close in a lover's embrace. He did not turn the moment into a performance of seduction. He gave her something far more intimate. Dignity. When the song ended, no one clapped. Luca lifted her hand slightly, bowed his head over it, and released her before the room could decide what story it wanted to tell. But Hannah's fingers still burned where he had held them. Connor stumbled forward. Enough. She's my wife. Luca looked at Hannah. Not Connor. Is that true? The question struck her harder than Connor's insult. Is that true? Not legally, not publicly, deeply. Hannah's mouth parted, but no answer came. Connor grabbed her wrist. The movement was fast, ugly, and familiar enough to make Hannah freeze. Luca's entire body changed. Not dramatically, no shouting, no sudden violence. Just a stillness so complete it made the room feel like it had stepped onto the edge of a rooftop. Remove your hand, Luca said. Connor sneered. Or what? One of Luca's men appeared from nowhere. A tall figure in black near the ballroom doors. Then another near the windows. Then another by the bar. Hannah had not even noticed them before. Connor did. His fingers loosened. Hannah pulled her wrist free. Luca stepped closer, his voice low enough that only the nearest tables heard. You humiliated her once. You touched her once. There will not be a third lesson. Connor's father rushed forward, sweating through his tuxedo. Luca, please, my son is drunk. This is a private matter. No, Luca said. You made it public when you let him bleed her in front of witnesses. Vivian Walsh's diamonds shook as she lifted her chin. This girl is our family concern now. Luca's eyes slid toward her. Then, your family should learn concern. Hannah felt the room tilt around her. She had been alone 5 minutes ago. Now the most dangerous man in New England was speaking like her pain had weight, and she did not understand why. Before anyone could answer, the ballroom doors burst open. A young woman in a red cocktail dress stumbled inside, her makeup streaked. One hand pressed over her stomach. She was pregnant, very pregnant. Connor turned white. The woman pointed at him. You said you would tell her after the wedding, she cried. You said once you had the property, you would leave her. The room erupted. Hannah stopped breathing. Property. Connor lunged toward the woman. Shut up. Marissa. Luca caught the name. So did everyone else. Hannah looked from Connor to the pregnant woman, and something inside her cracked so cleanly it almost made no sound. You were having a child, she whispered. Connor did not answer. That was answer enough. The woman sobbed. He told me she was just a signature. He told me the marriage only had to last until midnight. Midnight. Hannah looked at the huge antique clock above the ballroom doors. Eneist, sedemneist. 43 minutes. Luca's expression sharpened. For the first time that night, he looked truly interested. Not in scandal, in threat. He turned to Connor slowly. What happens at midnight? Connor's father moved first. Not toward Hannah, toward the side exit. Luca snapped his fingers. His men closed in. The music had stopped again. Somewhere in the chaos, a glass fell and shattered. Guests backed away as if the marble floor had become a battlefield. Hannah could hear her own pulse. What property? She asked. Connor stared at her with drunken hatred. You stupid little schoolteacher. You really don't know. Do you? Luca stepped between them, before the words could become a blow. Speak carefully, he said. Connor laughed. But his fear had ruined it. Her grandmother left her land on the coast, not much above ground. A rotting old chapel, some rocks, some sentimental garbage. He looked at Luca. But underneath old tunnels, smuggling tunnels, access to the harbor no customs agent has mapped in 50 years. Hannah shook her head. No, my grandmother left me nothing. She died with medical debt. Connor smiled cruelly. That's what my mother told you. Hannah turned to Vivian. The older woman's face had lost every trace of elegance. We were helping you, Vivian said. You had no idea what you were sitting on. Helping me, Hannah's voice broke. You let your son marry me while he had another woman pregnant. Vivian's eyes hardened. You should be grateful, A Walsh gave you his name. Something dark crossed Luca's face. Enough, he said. The ballroom lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the far windows exploded inward. Screams tore through the room. Hannah did not understand what had happened until Luca's arm locked around her waist and threw her behind a marble pillar. Gunfire cracked through the chandeliers. Crystal rained down like ice. Guests dropped on the tables. Connor screamed. The pregnant woman vanished beneath a rush of bodies. Luca covered Hannah with his own body. One hand braced near her head, his other drawing a gun from beneath his jacket with terrifying ease. Her wedding had become a war. She clutched his shirt without meaning to. He looked down at her. Are you hit? She could not answer. Hannah. His voice cut through the gunfire. Are you hit? It was the first time he said her name. No. She gasped. His eyes moved over her face, her shoulders, her dress, checking, calculating, protecting before he could think better of it. Then he looked over the pillar and fired twice. The sound made Hannah flinch. He shifted to shield her more fully. Keep your head down. Connor. Connor sold you. My aunt, my students, parents. There are people. My men are moving civilians out. How do you know? His jaw tightened. Because I planned for a betrayal tonight. The words landed cold. Hannah stared at him. You knew something would happen. I knew the Walshes were speaking to my enemies. His eyes met hers. I did not know they had put you in the center of it. Another burst of gunfire struck the pillar. Marble dust sprayed across Hannah's veil. Luca's hand came to the back of her head, pressing her down. His body caged hers, solid and warm and lethal. Across the ballroom, black-clad attackers moved through smoke, their faces hidden. Luca's men returned fire from the balcony and doors. The chandeliers swung overhead, glittering through dust. Hannah saw Connor crawling toward the head table. Not toward her, toward a black leather folder his father had dropped. Luca saw it too. His expression hardened. He is not drunk, he said quietly. He is desperate. Before Hannah could ask what he meant, Connor snatched the folder and ran toward the service corridor. Luca grabbed Hannah's hand. We move now. I can run in this dress. His gaze dropped to the long train tangled around her legs. He knelt without hesitation, pulled a knife from his ankle, and sliced through thousands of dollars of lace. Hannah stared down at him. The most feared man in the room was on one knee at her feet, cutting away the part of her dress that had become a trap. He looked up. Forgive me. For the dress, for what comes next. Then he stood, wrapped his arm around her, and led her through smoke, screams, and shattered roses. By the time they reached the service corridor, Hannah's wedding shoes were slick with champagne and glass dust. Luca moved like he knew every exit, every blind corner. His men appeared and disappeared around them, speaking in clipped Italian, faces grim. A young bodyguard with blood at his temple met them near the kitchen. Boss. Walsh went down to the loading dock. Moretti, men are outside. 3 SUVs. Civilians, so evacuated. Some trapped in the East Hall. Luca's eyes flicked to Hannah. She knew that look. Calculation. Triage. Go, she said before he spoke. Help them. His eyes narrowed. I'm not leaving you. You have people trapped, and you are the reason they came. The words hurt, even though they were not cruel. Luca seemed to realize it. His voice lowered. Not because of what you did, because of what they want from you. Hannah swallowed. Then tell me what they want. No time. The bodyguard looked over his shoulder. Boss. Luca made a decision that seemed to cost him. He removed his black suit jacket and put it around Hannah's shoulders. It swallowed her, smelling of smoke, cheddar, and him. You stay behind me. he said. You do exactly what I say. Hate me later. I already dislike being ordered around. A flash of something almost like approval crossed his face. Good. Stay alive and argue with me. They ran. Outside. The loading dock was washed in rain. Black SUVs boxed in the alley. Headlights cutting through mist. Men shouted. A gunshot cracked from somewhere near the dumpsters. Luca pushed Hannah behind a stack of crates as bullets sparked off metal. Connor stood near one of the SUVs, soaked and shaking. The leather folder clutched to his chest. Beside him was a man Hannah had never seen before, older. Silver-haired, dressed in a pale gray suit untouched by rain. Luca went still. Raphael Moretti, he said. The name meant nothing to Hannah, but it clearly meant death to everyone else. Raphael smiled across the rain. Luca Belandi, still ruining ceremonies. You sent men into a room full of civilians. I sent men to retrieve property stolen from me. Luca's voice turned colder. She is not property. Raphael's gaze slid to Hannah behind the crates. He smiled at her like he already owned her future. No, he said, but what is in her name belongs beneath my city. Connor shouted. I brought you the deed. You said I could leave. Raphael looked at him with mild disgust. Did I? Connor froze. Hannah understood then. There were men cruel enough to humiliate women. Then there were men like Raphael Moretti, who treated cruelty as paperwork. Raphael lifted one hand. A gun appeared against Connor's ribs. Hannah gasped. Luca's arm shot out, holding her back. Connor dropped the folder. Wait! The shot echoed through the alley. Hannah screamed. Connor fell hard onto the wet pavement, his white wedding boutonniere turning dark beneath the rain. For one terrible second, Hannah felt nothing. Not grief. Not relief. Only the sickening collapse of a life she had almost trusted. Raphael's man picked up the folder. Luca raised his gun. Raphael raised his own. The alley became a held breath. Then sirens wailed in the distance. Raphael smiled. Your police friends are getting faster. They're not my friends. Luca said. No, but they do arrive conveniently after your enemies bleed. Raphael stepped back into his SUV. Before the door closed, his eyes found Hannah again. Mrs. Walsh, he said. Your husband gave me half of what I need. I will come for the rest. The SUVs reversed into the rain. Luca did not chase. His men did not either. Hannah understood why when Luca turned and she saw the blood spreading beneath his shirt. Luca, she whispered. He looked down as if mildly annoyed by the wound. Then his knees almost buckled. Hannah caught his arm with both hands. He was too heavy, too solid, too powerful to fall. But for 1 second, he leaned into her. Just 1 second. His men rushed toward him. He pushed them away. Get her into the car. I can walk. Hannah snapped. Luca looked at her. Rain running down his face. Blood darkening his side. Not tonight. Before she could protest, he lifted her into his arms. Hannah's breath caught. The alley blurred the shattered wedding. The dead groom. The rain. The sirens. The blood. Luca carried her through it all, as if her weight meant nothing. As if his own wound meant less. His jaw was tight with pain, but his grip did not loosen. Inside the SUV, she clutched his jacket around her shoulders while his men drove into the storm. Behind them, the Harborstone Hotel shrank into flashing lights and broken glass. Hannah looked at Luca beside her. His head rested against the seat, eyes half closed. One hand pressed to his bleeding side. You need a hospital, she said. No hospitals. You were shot. I've been shot before. That is not a medical plan. His eyes opened slowly. even wounded. He looked dangerous. Urea teacher, and bleeding on Italian leather. One corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. Then his face tightened, and Hannah's anger cracked beneath fear. Why won't you go to a hospital? Because Raphael owns men in emergency rooms. The SUV sped through wet streets. Outside, Newport's mansions blurred into ghostly shapes, and the ocean flashed black beyond the cliffs. Hannah pressed her hands together to stop them from shaking. My husband is dead, she whispered. Luca looked at her carefully. Does that hurt? The question was brutal in its honesty. Hannah closed her eyes. I don't know what it does. That is allowed. He betrayed me, used me, had a pregnant girlfriend, sold me to your enemy. Her voice broke, and I still remember him asking me to marry him in my classroom with construction paper hearts on the wall. Luca said nothing. That silence was kinder than comfort. The SUV turned through iron gates and climbed a private road toward a mansion perched above the stormy coast. The house looked less like a home than a fortress wearing candlelight. Stone walls, tall windows, security lights hidden among cypress trees, men with earpieces at every entrance. This is your house, Hannah asked. One of them. Of course. The SUV stopped beneath a covered entrance. Luca tried to step out alone and nearly collapsed. Hannah was out before his men could stop her. Don't be stupid, she said, sliding under his arm. His bodyguard stared at her, like no one had spoken to Luca that way and survived. Luca, pale with pain, looked down at her. You call saving your life stupid, I call pretending you're not losing blood stupid. His gaze lingered on her face. Then, against all reason, he let her help him inside. The mansion smelled of rain, polished wood, and expensive secrets. Hannah walked with him through a marble hall lined with old portraits whose eyes seemed to follow her. Her torn wedding dress dragged over dark floors. Luca's jacket hung from her shoulders. Blood marked his shirt. They looked like survivors of a war no one had declared. A woman in her 60s waited in the foyer. Silver hair, braided neatly. Face carved with worry she tried to hide. Luca, she breathed. Fina. Zia. You are bleeding on my floor. Hannah Miller, he said, ignoring that. My aunt, Serafina. Serafina looked at Hannah's ruined dress, tear-streaked face, and bare wrist where Connor had grabbed her. Her expression softened with immediate, fierce understanding. Come in, child. I'm not a child, Hannah said automatically. Serafina's eyebrow lifted. For the first time that night, Hannah almost smiled. Good, Serafina said. Then help me keep this stubborn man alive. They took Luca to a private medical room hidden behind a library wall. Of course he had one. Hannah should have been terrified by the surgical lights, locked cabinets, and quiet efficiency of men who had clearly done this before. Instead, she found herself washing her hands at a steel sink while Serafina cut open Luca's shirt. The wound was deep but not fatal. The bullet had grazed and torn more than entered. Still, there was blood. Too much. Luca refused anesthesia until Serafina threatened to call his mother priest. There is no need to involve religion, he muttered. Hannah pressed clean gauze near the wound when Serafina instructed her. Her hands shook once. Luca noticed. Look at me, he said. I'm trying not to look at the hole in you. Look at me anyway. She did. His eyes held hers as Serafina cleaned the wound. Pain tightened his jaw, but he did not make a sound. Hannah watched the pulse in his throat, the clenched line of his hand against the table, the restraint of a man who had trained himself never to ask for mercy. You can breathe too, she said quietly. His eyes sharpened. Do you tell all wounded criminals how to breathe? Only the bossy ones? Serafina made a soft sound that might have been a laugh. Luca did not smile, but something in his face shifted. A crack in the stone. When the wound was bandaged, Serafina left to prepare a room and contact someone named Dr. Voss. Luca remained on the medical table. Shirt ruined. Tattooed chest, half shadowed by the surgical lamp. Hannah stood beside him in a torn wedding dress, suddenly aware of how intimate the room had become. He noticed that too. He pushed himself upright slowly. You should sleep. I watched my groom get shot less than an hour after he called me a mistake. Then you should definitely sleep. I don't think sleep is going to recognize me tonight. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, Your marriage license was filed before the ceremony. Hannah's stomach twisted. What? My men checked. Connor rushed it this afternoon. The legal record shows you as Hannah Walsh. She grabbed the edge of the counter. No. I can have it challenged. Challenged. Her voice rose. I need it erased. It will be. You sound very sure. I am. Because you're Luca Belandi, and people obey you, yes. His honesty was infuriating. She stared at him. I am not one of your people. No, he said. You are under my protection. That sounds worse. It is safer than the alternative. You don't get to decide that for me. His expression hardened. Raphael Moretti will come for you. The Walshes will blame you. The police will ask why a schoolteacher left her wedding with me after her husband was murdered. Reporters will turn your humiliation into a headline by sunrise. So yes, Hannah, for tonight. I decide where you sleep. The room went silent. Her eyes burned. Not because he was wrong, because he was not. I had a life this morning, she whispered. Luca's face changed again. Barely, but enough. I know. No. You don't tea. Men like you never lose ordinary things. You lose territory. Money. Enemies. I lost my classroom. My name. My wedding. The future I thought I had. And I don't even know which part I'm supposed to mourn. He said nothing. She turned away before he could see her cry, but his voice stopped her at the door. My brother died because I trusted the wrong family. Hannah looked back. Luca's gaze had gone distant. Colder. Darker. The Walshes helped arrange a port transfer 6 months ago. Information leaked. My younger brother, Matteo, was in the convoy. Raphael Moretti's men ambushed them. His jaw tightened. I came tonight to find the leak. Hannah's anger dimmed, replaced by something reluctant and human. And you found me instead. His eyes returned to hers. No, he said softly. I found both. The next morning, Hannah woke in a bedroom larger than her apartment. For 3 seconds. She did not remember. Then she saw her wedding dress hanging over a chair, torn and stained. Luca's black jacket lay folded beside it. Everything returned. Connor's laugh. Luca's hand. Gunfire. Rain. Blood. She ran to the bathroom and vomited. When she came out, there were clothes waiting on the bed. Soft black pants. A cream sweater. New undergarments still wrapped in paper. No designer labels visible. But everything fit perfectly. That unsettled her more than if it hadn't tea. In the hallway, 2 guards stood near the stairs. Hannah crossed her arms. Am I a guest or a prisoner? The younger guard looked terrified to answer. A voice behind her said, a guest who should not test windows. Hannah turned. Luca stood at the end of the hall in a black shirt, bandage hidden beneath the fabric. Face pale but controlled. He looked too awake for a man shot the night before. Do you always sneak up on people? She asked. In my own house. It is called walking. Your house has guards outside my door. They are outside every door. That doesn't make it charming. He studied her, and she hated how much she felt that look. Not hungry. Not yet. Worse. Interested. I have coffee, he said. I have questions. Coffee first. I'm not easily bribed. It's good coffee. She followed him because she was angry, exhausted, and he was right. It was good coffee. The breakfast room overlooked the gray ocean. Rain streaked the windows. Black SUVs lined the drive below like sleeping beasts. Serafina served Hannah eggs, toast, fruit, and a stern look that made refusal impossible. Luca drank espresso and answered phone calls in Italian, each one clipped and deadly. Hannah listened for familiar words. Raphael, Walsh, Deed, girl. She did not like being the girl. When Luca ended the call, Hannah set down her cup. I want to go home. No. The word was calm. It still struck like a door locking. Her eyes flashed. Try again. Your apartment was searched at dawn. Hannah went cold. What my men arrived before Moretti's people finished. Your building manager is alive. Your neighbor's dog is unharmed. Your front door is not. She gripped the edge of the table. They went to my home. They went to find documents your grandmother may have hidden. I don't have documents. You may have them without knowing. My grandmother left me recipes, old books, and a wooden music box that doesn't open. Luca went still. Hannah noticed immediately. What? Where is it? In my apartment. His chair scraped back. The next hour unfolded like a nightmare with seatbelts. They drove to Providence in a convoy of 3 black SUVs. Hannah sat beside Luca in the back seat. City streets passing in wet streaks beyond tinted glass. He spoke little. She spoke less. Her apartment building looked painfully ordinary after his mansion. Brick walls, crooked mailboxes, a hallway that smelled of lemon cleaner and old radiators. Her door hung broken. Inside, her life had been turned inside out. Books ripped from shelves, drawers emptied, sofa cushions slashed, her classroom tote overturned. Children's drawings scattered across the floor like little wounded birds. Hannah knelt and picked one up. A crayon sun, a stick figure with curly hair. Miss Miller is nice. Her vision blurred. Luca stood behind her. Silent. Daunt. She said, I didn't speak. You were about to say something practical. Don't. He closed his mouth. Good. She found the music box beneath a loose floorboard in her bedroom closet. Her grandmother had given it to her before she died, saying only, when the world gets too loud, remember there is always a song underneath. Hannah had never gotten it open. Luca took it carefully, turning it over in his hands. Old walnut wood, a faded carving of a chapel by the sea. My grandmother's chapel, Hannah said. Steint. Orla. S. It's real, yes. How do you know? Because my brother died near it. And, and, and the room changed. Hannah looked at him. Luca did not look away. Before either could speak, the apartment window shattered. Luca grabbed Hannah and pulled her down behind the bed as bullets tore through the wall. She heard guards shouting in the hallway. Glass rained over her grandmother's quilt. Luca covered her with his body again. It should not have felt familiar. It did. His mouth was close to her ear. Stay low. I am beginning to hate that sentence. Stay alive and hate it later. He fired toward the window without lifting fully. A man screamed outside. The gunfire stopped for half a breath, then resumed from the hallway. Hannah clutched the music box against her chest. Luca looked at it. Do not drop that. I wasn't planning to. He dragged her toward the closet. Fire escape. I thought you said not to test windows. This one has my permission. They climbed down into rain and brick shadows. Luca moved, despite his wound. Jaw tight, one hand gripping Hannah's wrist. A black SUV screeched into the alley just as two men rounded the corner. Luca pushed Hannah behind him. One attacker lifted his gun. Hannah did not think. She threw the music box at his face. The man cursed, stumbled, and missed. Luca shot the second man, then turned to stare at her. What she snapped. Breathless. You threw the evidence. You said don't drop it? I threw it accurately. For one stunned second. He looked almost amused. Then the SUV door opened, and his men pulled them inside. The music box, miraculously, was retrieved. Back at the mansion, Luca opened it with tools from a locked study while Hannah paced behind him. It did not contain jewels. It contained a small brass key, a folded hand-drawn map, and a strip of old film, negative sealed in wax paper. Luca held the film to the light. His face went empty. Hannah knew immediately it was the kind of emptiness that came before violence. What is it? He placed the film on a backlit scanner. An image appeared on the computer screen. A younger Luca stood beside another man with the same eyes and easier smile, his brother. Hannah guessed. They were outside the chapel carved on the music box. Behind them, partially visible near a black car, stood Connor's father and Raphael Moretti. The date printed on the image was 7 months before Luca's brother died. Luca stared at it. Your grandmother knew, Hannah said softly. She must have seen them meeting. She was a church volunteer. She used to restore old records there. Luca picked up the brass key. The tunnels beneath street. Orla S. connect to the harbor. During Prohibition, families used them to move liquor. In the 80s, goons. Now Raphael wants them for something worse. What people? Luca said. Hannah's stomach turned. He continued. Voice cold. Witnesses. Debtors. Women who disappear from clubs and never make the news because someone signs a form saying they left the country. Hannah covered her mouth. The room seemed too beautiful to hold such ugliness. Leather books. Rain on glass. A fire burning low. And there, on the desk, her grandmother's map pointed toward hell. That can be why Connor married me. It is exactly why. Luca looked at her. The land can only transfer through your consent or spousal claim. If you died after midnight, as his legal wife, Connor inherited control long enough to sell access. Hannah sat down hard. If I died. Luca's silence confirmed it. He wasn't going to divorce me. She whispered. He was going to bury me. Something in Luca's face turned lethal. Yes. Hannah should have cried. Instead, a strange calm entered her. Her grandmother had known danger and hidden proof in a music box. Connor had smiled in her classroom while planning her death. Raphael Moretti had looked at her like she was a locked gate he intended to break. And Luca Bellondi, wounded and furious, watched her as if waiting to see whether she would shatter. She did not give him the satisfaction. What do we do? He tilted his head. It's my land. My grandmother's proof. My almost murder. You are not coming near this. Hannah stood. I am already in it. My world kills people like you. Your world tried. It missed. His eyes darkened. That is not courage. That is shock. No. Shock was last night. This is anger. For a long moment, they faced each other across the desk. Then Luca stepped closer. Not touching. Almost. Close enough for Hannah to see the pulse beating at his throat. You have no idea what men like Raphael do to women who defy them. And you have no idea what women like me become when polite suffering stops working. His gaze dropped to her mouth. Only for a second. But the room changed. The fire cracked softly behind them. Hannah felt the air narrow. Luca stepped back first. "You will stay here," he said, voice rougher. "We will create a public story. You left the wedding with me because Connor attacked you. You are cooperating with my attorneys. Until the marriage is annulled and the land secured, the world will believe you are under my protection. The world already believes worse. Then we use worse." "What does that mean?" His eyes met hers. "It means Raphael will hesitate if he thinks touching you means touching what belongs to me." Hannah's heartbeat stumbled. "I belong to myself." "Yes," Luca said quietly. "That is why this will only be a lie." It was supposed to comfort her. It did not. By noon, every gossip site in New England had a photo of Luca Bellondi dancing with Hannah in her torn wedding dress. By evening, the headline had become a public scandal. Mafia boss steals bride after groom-esque drunken meltdown. Wedding night, murder rocks. Walsh family. Who is Hannah Miller? She watched strangers dissect her humiliation on a tablet in Luca's library. Some called her lucky. Some called her a gold digger. Some said Connor had obviously been joking. Some zoomed in on Luca's hand at her waist and wrote things that made her cheeks burn. Luca entered and took the tablet without asking. "Hey, no poison before dinner. It's my life they're poisoning. And they are not invited to help you digest." She hated that line. She also almost smiled. Almost. The fake relationship began the next morning. Not with romance. With a press conference. Luca's attorney staged it outside the courthouse. Hannah wore a navy dress Serafina had chosen, and a coat Luca had not approved because it made her look too exposed. He said this with complete seriousness, while Hannah stared at the coat's high collar and long sleeves. "You are impossible," she said. "I am alive." Not the same thing. Outside the courthouse, reporters screamed questions. Cameras flashed. Hannah's stomach twisted when they shouted Connor's name. "Did you know your husband had a pregnant mistress? Were you having an affair with Luca Bellondi? Did you profit from Connor Walsh's death?" Luca walked beside her, one hand hovering at the small of her back without touching. She felt the heat of it anyway. A reporter shoved close. "Miss Miller, did you leave your reception willingly with Mr. Problems?" Bellondi Luca's face turned cold. Hannah stepped forward before he could answer. "Yes," she said, clearly. "I left with the only man in that room who treated me like I mattered." The crowd went silent for half a heartbeat. Luca looked at her. His expression did not change, but his eyes did. The clip went viral within an hour. That night, Raphael sent white roses to the mansion. The card read, "Brides should not dance with wolves." Hannah found Luca in the garage, standing beside a black car while his men prepared weapons. She held up the card. "Do you get dramatic flowers often?" His gaze hardened. "You should not have seen that." "I can read. Teachers are dangerous that way." "Hannah, don't use that voice." "What voice?" "The one that says, you are about to lock me in a tower and call it strategy." His men suddenly found the floor fascinating. Luca stepped closer. Slowly enough that she could retreat. She did not. "Raphael is baiting me. By threatening me." "Yes. And you're going to do something stupid." "Effective. Violent. Those are often related." She hated him a little for being calm. She hated him more for how fear moved beneath her anger. "If you go after him tonight, you'll be reacting emotionally." His eyes narrowed. "Do not confuse concern for weakness." "I'm not. I'm saying concern makes smart men reckless." He looked at her for a long time. "Who taught you to speak to dangerous men like this?" "Fourth graders." For the first time, Luca Bellondi smiled. It was small, brief, almost unwilling. But Hannah saw it. So did everyone in the garage. The men looked away faster. That smile changed something she wished it had not. Because for 1 second, she did not see a mafia boss. She saw a man who had forgotten how to be anything else. The weeks that followed were built from danger and almosts. Almost touches. Almost truths. Almost goodbyes that neither of them meant. Hannah stayed at the mansion while Luca's attorneys fought to annul the Walsh marriage and freeze the coastal property. She tried to return to her school, but the district placed her on leave for her safety and the comfort of families. The phrase nearly broke her. Luca found her that night in the greenhouse, crying beside orange trees under glass. He did not step inside at first. Hannah wiped her face. "Are you going to pretend you didn't see?" "No." "Good. I'm tired of everyone pretending." He entered slowly. The greenhouse lights turned the rain silver overhead. "They will reinstate you. You can buy my classroom back. I can apply pressure." "Of course you can." He stopped beside her. That sounded like judgment. It was. "I protect what matters. Sometimes people need to matter without being controlled." The words struck him. She saw it. He looked away toward the rain. "My mother used to say that to my father." Hannah softened despite herself. "What happened to her?" "She left when I was 14. Took my little sister. My father called it betrayal. I called it survival." "You have a sister," his face closed. "Not anymore." Hannah understood not to ask. But he surprised her. Raphael found her 2 years later. She was 16. His voice went emotionless. "My father refused to negotiate. Said weakness invites wolves. By the time I took over, she was gone." Hannah's chest tightened. "Luca, that is why I control exits. Doors. Windows. Cars. Doctors. That is why I do not let enemies make second attempts." He looked at her then, and the restraint in his eyes frightened her more than anger. "So when you tell me control is not protection, I hear you, but I do not know how to believe you and keep you alive." The rain beat softly against the glass. Hannah stepped closer. This time, she almost touched him, almost placed her hand against his chest where the bandage had been. But she stopped. His eyes dropped to the small distance between them. "You should not look at me like that," he said. "Like what?" "Like I am not what I am. You are what you do," she whispered. "But not only what you've done." His breath changed. The greenhouse seemed to shrink around them, warm and green and fragile. Then a phone rang. Luca closed his eyes for half a second. The moment shattered. He answered. His expression turned to steel. When he hung up, Hannah knew before he spoke. "Raphael took Marissa," he said. "Connor's pregnant mistress. The woman Hannah had every reason to hate, and yet the first thing she felt was fear. Is she alive for now? Then we get her." "No, I get her." Hannah stared at him. "She's carrying a child. She betrayed you too. She was lied to. She walked into your wedding. She walked in crying." Luca's jaw tightened. Hannah stepped closer. "You said Raphael uses people. Don't let him turn her in debate because you think she doesn't deserve saving." His eyes burned into hers. "You are asking me to risk men for the woman who helped destroy your wedding. I'm asking you not to become Raphael with better manners." The words hit hard. For a moment, she thought he would lash out. Instead, Luca looked at her with something like surrender, though it was too dark to be soft. "You make mercy sound like a weapon." "It is." "Then you come with me." Hannah blinked. "What?" You know her face. "She may trust you before she trusts me." "That sounds like a terrible idea." "It is." He reached for his phone. "But it is yours." The rescue happened at an abandoned church outside Fall River. Its windows boarded, its steeple broken against a moonless sky. Stained. Orla, S. Hannah felt her grandmother's music box key heavy in her coat pocket as Luca's convoy approached without headlights. Fog moved low across the grass. The ocean sounded somewhere beyond the cliffs, dark and restless. Luca gave her a bulletproof vest. She stared at it. This is not in my teacher handbook. It should be. American education is underfunded, but not that underfunded. Again, that brief flicker near his mouth. Then he adjusted the vest straps himself, fingers brushing near her ribs with careful restraint. Hannah held still. His face was close enough for her to see the tiny scar at his jaw, the shadow beneath his eyes. If something happens, he said, you run to Nico. Not to me. Nico is the one with the scar. Nico is the one who follows orders. Unlike me. Exactly. His hands paused at the last strap. For 1 second. His thumb rested against the fabric near her heart. Almost nothing. Enough. Luca. She whispered. His eyes lifted. There was hunger there now. But not the easy kind. Not lust alone. Fear. He was afraid of wanting her. That made 2 of them. Then gunfire erupted inside the church. Luca pushed her behind a stone wall. The rescue became chaos. Men moved through fog like shadows. Luca's people breached the side entrance while Raphael's guards fired from broken windows. Hannah stayed low. Following Nico through a narrow cemetery path, she could hear Marissa screaming inside. A child's life beat somewhere in that scream. Hannah, run. Faster. Inside the church, candlelight flickered across cracked saints and graffiti. Marissa was tied to a chair near the altar, face bruised, belly straining beneath her dress. A man held a gun to her head. Raphael stood beside the ruined pulpit. Silver hair, perfect. Miss Miller, he called. You came. How sentimental. Luca entered from the opposite aisle. Gun raised. The entire church seemed to hold its breath between them. Let her go, Luca said. Raphael smiled. Which her? His gun shifted from Marissa to Hannah. Luca's expression changed. For the first time, Hannah saw his control fracture. Just a crack. Raphael saw it too. Oh, he said softly. That is unexpected. Hannah's blood went cold. Luca had been feared because nothing could be used against him. Now everyone in the church knew that was no longer true. Raphael's smile widened. The bride did what bullets could not. Look at me, Luca said to Raphael. But Raphael kept looking at Hannah. Do you know what he is? Miss Miller, not what he pretends when he dances with broken-hearted women. What he is. Yes, Hannah said. Her voice surprised her by not shaking. Raphael lifted an eyebrow. And yet you stand beside him. No. Hannah looked at Luca. I stand where I choose. Something fierce moved across Luca's face. Raphael hid. Choice is the lie, gentle people. Tell themselves before powerful people. Correct them. He nodded to his man. The gun pressed harder against Marissa's temple. Hannah moved before Luca could stop her. She stepped into the aisle and pulled the brass key from her pocket. You want the tunnels, she said. You need this. Raphael's eyes sharpened. Luca's voice cut low. Hannah. She ignored him. My grandmother hid it. She said. Connor never found it. Your men didn't find it. The land means nothing without the old harbor lock. Raphael's gaze flickered to Luca. Then back. Bring it to me. No. Let Marissa go first. Raphael laughed softly. You negotiate like a schoolteacher. I am a schoolteacher. I know when a bully is scared, he won't get what he wants. The church went silent. Luca stared at her as if she had stepped off a cliff and expected the air to respect her. Raphael's face hardened. For one dangerous second. Hannah thought she had gone too far. Then a sound came from above. A bird fluttering in the rafters. No. A signal. Luca's men crashed through the upper windows. Everything exploded. Luca moved like violence given human shape. He shot the man holding Marissa before the man could fire. Nico swept Marissa from the chair. Raphael's guards fired from behind pews. Wood splintered. Candles toppled. Smoke and dust filled the broken church. Hannah ran toward Marissa. A hand grabbed her from behind. Raphael. His arm locked around her throat. Gun cold beneath her jaw. The entire fight shifted. Luca turned. Every man in the church seemed to freeze. Raphael breathed against Hannah's ear. Now he understands inheritance. Luca's eyes fixed on Hannah's face. Not the gun. Her face. Let her go, he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Raphael pressed the gun closer. Drop yours. Luca did. Every weapon in the room followed. One by one. As Luca's men obeyed the silent command in his stillness, Hannah's heart slammed against Raphael's arm. No, she whispered. Ka heard. His gaze did not leave hers. It's all right. It's not. It will be. Raphael smiled. Devotion makes kings stupid. Luca's answer was quiet. No. It makes them honest. Then the floor beneath Raphael cracked. Not metaphorically. Literally, the old chapel stone gave way under his back foot with a grinding roar. Raphael stumbled. Hannah twisted with every ounce of strength she had, driving her elbow into his ribs. The gun fired into the ceiling. Luca lunged. He reached her before she hit the ground. For 1 second, she was in his arms amid smoke, screams, and falling dust. Then Raphael rose with a knife. Luca pushed Hannah behind him. The fight between Luca Bellondi and Raphael Moretti was not elegant. It was brutal, silent, personal. Raphael slashed Luca's arm. Luca drove him into a pew. Raphael struck his wounded side. Luca staggered but did not fall. Hannah watched, frozen. As two empires tried to end each other beneath the eyes of broken saints. Raphael reached for the fallen gun. Hannah saw it first. She grabbed a fallen candlestick and slammed it onto Raphael's wrist. He screamed. Luca looked at her. Raphael looked at her too. Hatred twisting his face. You little Luca ended the sentence with one punch that sent Raphael crashing against the altar steps. Nico and two men seized him. The church filled with sirens. This time, Luca did not run. Hannah stood shaking near the broken aisle, still holding the candlestick. Luca came to her slowly. Blood marked his sleeve. Dust streaked his face. His eyes were wild in a way she had never seen. He stopped inches away. Hannah, fine. You had a gun to your throat. I said I'm fine. You are lying. So are you? His breath shook once. Just once. Then he did the thing he had not allowed himself to do for weeks. He touched her face. His hand rose slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. His fingers brushed her cheek with such restraint it hurt more than desperation would have. Hannah closed her eyes. The church. The men. The sirens. The blood. The war, all of it, fell away beneath that touch. I cannot do this, he whispered. She opened her eyes. His face was close, tormented and beautiful. Do what want you and keep you safe. I know how to kill for someone. I know how to punish, control, surround, destroy. I do not know how to love without turning it into a cage. Hannah's heart broke for the boy who lost his sister, the man who built fortresses because he could not survive another empty room. Then learn, she said. His eyes searched hers. I am not gentle. I didn't ask you to be harmless. I am not good. I didn't ask for a saint. I will ruin anyone who hurts you. That one I might allow. Something almost like a laugh escaped him, but it died into longing. Hannah placed her hand over his. holding it against her cheek. But I won't belong to you. Luca. His jaw tightened. Then, slowly, he nodded. No, he said. You will belong beside me only if you choose to stand there. It was not a confession. Not exactly. It was more dangerous. It was the first honest vow he had ever given her. Raphael's arrest did not end the war. Men like him had lawyers, judges, cousins, ghosts. The Walsh family tried to deny everything until Luca released the film negative. Bank records, tunnel maps, and recordings captured from the wedding surveillance he had placed for his own investigation. Vivian Walsh went silent when police found a signed life insurance policy in Connor's private safe. Hannah's name was on it. Connor's mistress, Marisa, gave testimony from a protected hospital wing. 2 weeks later, she delivered a son and named him Caleb, not after Connor, but after the nurse who helped her through labor. Hannah visited once. Marissa cried so hard she could barely speak. I hated you, she confessed, because he made me believe you stole the life he promised me. Hannah looked at the newborn in the hospital bassinet. Tiny fists curled beneath his chin. We were both standing in different rooms of the same lie. Marissa subbed. Hannah held her hand. Outside the room, Luca watched through the glass. Expression, unreadable. When Hannah came out, he said, You forgive too easily. No, she said. I refuse to carry things that belong to dead men. He looked at her then, as if she had taught him another form of power. The annulment came through quietly. Hannah Miller became Hannah Miller again. She expected relief. Instead, she cried in Luca's library with the paper in her hand, because freedom, she realized, could feel like grief when it arrived after betrayal. Luca found her there. He did not ask why she was crying. He sat beside her on the floor, the feared Mafia boss of New England, sitting on an antique rug in a candlelit library, shoulder almost touching hers. Almost. You are free, he said. I know. That is supposed to be good. It is. She wiped her face. It just doesn't give back the version of me who believed him. No. She looked at him. Do you ever miss who you were before everything happened? Luca leaned back against the shelves. I was never innocent. That's not what I asked. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Yes. The honesty settled between them. Hannah rested her head against the shelf. I want to go back to teaching. I know. I don't want your money fixing it. I know. I want to fight for it properly. I have 3 attorneys prepared to fight him properly if needed. She gave him a look. He exhaled. 1 attorney. Properly. Thank you. A pause. Then Luca said, There is another option. Suspicion narrowed her eyes. Why do I feel expensive furniture behind that sentence? My family owns a building in Providence. Empty. Near your old district. You could open a private learning center, scholarships only, for children who need quiet rooms and people who do not give up on them. Hannah stared at him. I said I didn't want your money. It would not be charity. No, you own street. Or less now. The state wants the tunnels sealed. The Historical Society wants the chapel restored. My company needs to clean the harbor access before federal investigators tear it apart. You lease the land to Belandi Imports legally. Publicly. At an insulting rate, your attorney will negotiate. You use the income for the school. That is still your money. That is business. You are impossible. I am told. She looked away, but emotion had already filled her throat. You remembered what I wanted. I remember everything you say. The sentence was too intimate. Hannah turned back slowly. Luca's gaze was on her. Steady and dark. Everything, yes. That sounds dangerous. It is. Neither moved. The space between them filled with all the things they had not said in the greenhouse, in the church, in the car after nightmares, in the courtroom hallways, when reporters shouted, and Luca stood just close enough to shield her from cameras. Hannah whispered, "Are you still pretending this is only protection?" His eyes dropped to her mouth. "No." Her breath caught. "Are you going to do something about that?" His hand flexed against his knee. "I am trying very hard not to." "Why?" "Because once I kiss you, Hannah, I will want to keep kissing you. And I am not a man who wants mildly." A shiver moved through her. "Maybe I'm tired of men who only wanted me safely." Luca's gaze lifted back to hers. The room held still. Then the mansion alarm went off. Red lights flashed across the library. Luca was on his feet instantly, gun in hand, body between Hannah and the door. She almost laughed from sheer disbelief. Every time, "Stay behind me." I really hate that sentence. I know. This time, it was not Raphael. It was the last Walsh betrayal. Connor's father, desperate and ruined, had paid 2 former guards to break into the mansion and destroy the evidence that remained. They reached the west hallway before Luca's security stopped them. But one made it to the library door. Hannah saw the gun before Luca turned fully. She shoved him. The shot hit the shelf behind them, exploding old books into dust. Luca's face changed into pure terror. Not anger, terror, because Hannah had moved toward danger for him. He disarmed the attacker in 3 seconds. Maybe less. By the time his men flooded in, the man was on the floor and Luca had him by the throat. Hannah had never seen Luca truly lose control. Now she did. "Luca," she said. He did not hear. The attacker clawed at his hand. "Luca." Still nothing. She stepped closer. Heart pounding. "Luca Bellandi." His eyes snapped to hers. She shook her head once. Slowly. Breath by breath. He released the man. Nico dragged the attacker away. The library smelled of gunpowder and torn paper. Luca turned on Hannah. "Never do that again." His voice shook. Hannah stared at him. "You were in the line of fire." "So were you?" "I am built for it. No one is built to be shot." "You could have died." "So could you." The words broke something in him. He crossed the room in 2 strides and stopped just short of touching her. His hands clenched at his sides like restraint was physically hurting him. "I cannot lose you," he said. The confession came out raw, stripped of elegance. Hannah's anger faded. Luca looked almost furious with himself. "I have known kings, killers, leers, saints with dirty hands, and monsters dressed as businessmen. I have buried blood. I have survived betrayal. I have made men kneel with 1 phone call." His voice lowered. "And then you stood in a ruined wedding dress and put your hand in mine. And now the thought of a world without you makes me stupid." Her eyes burned. "That sounds inconvenient." "It is catastrophic." A tear slipped down her cheek. He watched it like it wounded him. "Hannah," he whispered. This time, he did not stop himself. He touched her cheek. She rose onto her toes and kissed him first. For a heartbeat, he did not move. Then his restraint shattered. Luca's hand slid into her hair, his other arm circling her waist, pulling her close with a sound that was almost pain. The kiss was not gentle, but it was careful, hungry, but reverent. He kissed her like a man who had spent his life denying himself mercy and had suddenly been handed something holy he did not deserve. Hannah clung to him, not because she needed saving, but because she wanted to feel him choose her without an audience, without blood, without a ballroom watching. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. "I should apologize," he said. "Don't you dare." His breath warmed her lips. You are certain, for once in my life, she whispered. Yes, 3 months later. Stained, Orless Chapel stood beneath a clear autumn sky. Its windows had been restored, its broken steeple repaired. The tunnels beneath it were sealed with federal oversight, historical documentation, and enough Belandi-funded security to make even ghosts ask permission before entering. Hannah stood near the chapel doors in a cream dress. Not white. Never white again. Her hair moved softly in the sea wind. Children's laughter drifted from the lawn where her future students ran between tables set with books, art supplies, and paper stars. The Hannah Miller Learning House would open in 2 weeks. Not because Luca bought her a dream, because Hannah negotiated every contract, argued with every attorney, rejected 3 versions of Belandi generosity, and turned a place built for smuggling into a place where children could feel safe. Luca watched her from the edge of the lawn. Black suit, no tie, dark eyes, dangerous as ever. Nico stood beside him. You look calm, Nico said. Luca did not take his eyes off Hannah. I am not. She is cutting ribbon. Boss. Not defusing a bomb. With Hannah. There is often little difference. Nico wisely said nothing. Hannah turned then and caught Luca watching. Even from a distance. She felt it. That look had changed since the wedding. It was still intense. Still possessive in the way Luca breathed before he remembered not to cage her. But now there was something else inside it. Permission. He loved her like a locked door learning to become a doorway. The ceremony began at sunset. Reporters stood beyond the security line. But Hannah barely noticed them. Serafina cried quietly into a lace handkerchief. Marissa came with baby Caleb, standing near the back, alive and trembling, but free. Hannah's aunt held a bouquet of wildflowers. Some of Hannah's former students sat cross-legged in front, waving when she looked their way. Luca remained in the last row, just as he had at the wedding, but this time, he was not a stranger in the shadows. He was the man who had offered his hand when the world laughed. When Hannah finished her speech, the applause rose soft and warm beneath the sea wind. She cut the ribbon. Children cheered. The chapel bell rang for the first time in decades. Then music began. A violin. The same song from her wedding. Hannah turned slowly. Luca stood at the edge of the courtyard, one hand extended. The whole world seemed to pause again. But this time, no one laughed. No one whispered mistake. No one watched her with pity. Luca's voice carried across the courtyard, calm and low. Miss Miller, he said. May I have the first dance? Hannah smiled through tears. She walked to him slowly, feeling every step as a choice. When she reached him, she placed her hand in his. You know, she said, this is technically not the first dance. His fingers closed around hers. It is the first one that matters. He drew her into the music beneath the restored chapel lights. The ocean burned gold behind them. Children clapped off rhythm. Serafina cried harder. Nico pretended not to. Luca's hand settled at Hannah's waist. No longer barely touching. No longer afraid of wanting. Still careful. Always careful with her. Hannah looked up at him. Do you remember what Connor called me? Luca's eyes darkened. Yes. A mistake. His jaw tightened. Do not say his name on this ground. I need to say something else. He waited. She took a breath, feeling the wind, the music, the life she had rebuilt from the ashes of humiliation. He was wrong. Luca stopped dancing. Just for a second. Then he bowed his head until his forehead nearly touched hers. He was the wrong man, Luca said. In the wrong room. Speaking to the wrong woman. Hannah's heart trembled. And you, his eyes held hers with the kind of devotion that still frightened her. but no longer made her want to run. I am the man who should have asked sooner. She smiled. Asked what Luca reached into his jacket. The courtyard went silent as if the entire world knew before Hannah did. He did not kneel. Not immediately. First, he opened his palm. Inside lay no diamond ring. It was a small brass key. Her grandmother's key. Restored. Polished. Hanging from a thin gold chain, Hannah's lips parted. This opened a tunnel, Luca said. Now it opens whatever life you choose next. His voice lowered. If you want me in that life, I will stand beside you, not in front of you unless there is danger. Not around you like a cage. Beside you. Then Luca Bellondi, feared by judges, criminals, and kings of the harbor, knelt before Hannah Miller in front of everyone. A gasp moved through the crowd. His dark eyes never left hers. I love you, he said, catastrophically, inconveniently, completely. I will spend the rest of my life learning how to love you without turning fear into walls. And when I fail, you will correct me. Loudly. Because you are very good at that. A tear slid down Hannah's cheek. He continued, voice rough, marry me someday. When you are ready, or do not marry me and still let me come home to you. Take my name or keep yours. Build your school. Argue with me in every room I own. Just choose me because you want me. Not because the world left you no other hand to hold. Hannah looked at him, kneeling before her. The dangerous man who had once saved her dignity with a dance, and then spent months learning that protection without freedom was only another form of control. She thought of the ballroom, the laughter, the word mistake. Then she thought of children running through sunlight, of a restored chapel, of a man who terrified the world but trembled when she stood too close to danger. She took the key from his palm. Yes, she whispered. Luca's eyes closed briefly, as if the word had gone through him like grace. But not tomorrow, she added. His eyes opened. A smile touched her mouth. I have a school to open, and you have several emotional control issues to work on. Serafina laughed out loud. Nico coughed into his hand. Luca stared at Hannah for one long second. Then he smiled. Not almost. Fully. It transformed his face so completely that Hannah's breath caught. As my future wife commands, he said. Future possible wife. Future inevitable wife. Luca, I am learning patience. Not miracles. She laughed then. Really laughed. And the sound moved through the courtyard like the final breaking of a curse. Luca stood and kissed her beneath the chapel lights. Not to claim her. Not to rescue her. To meet her where she had chosen to stand. The crowd applauded. The ocean wind lifted Hannah's hair. Somewhere beyond the cliffs, the sealed tunnels slept beneath stone, their darkness no longer hungry, and in the place where powerful men had once hidden crimes. A woman once called a mistake danced with the only man dangerous enough to protect her freedom and devoted enough to kneel before it. Years later, people would still talk about that first dance at the Harborstone Hotel. They would say Luca Bellondi stole another man's bride. They would say Hannah Miller was lucky the Mafia boss noticed her. They would get it wrong, because Luca had not stolen her, and Hannah had not been saved by luck. She had placed her hand in danger's palm while the world watched her break. And instead of breaking smaller, she had reason. The second dance, at C. Orla S., was not the beginning of her rescue. It was the beginning of her reign. And when Luca held her under the gold autumn sky, he knew with terrifying certainty that every empire he had built before her had been made of stone, blood, and fear. But this, her hand in his, her laughter against his mouth, her name still her own, this was the only kingdom he had ever wanted to deserve.